Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I have, that's right, a reasonable book haul. I know, I'm surprised too. I actually wasn't planning on doing a book haul this month at all, even though it's the way I buy books. It typically had been monthly, and it's been a little over a month since I've had one post. But I bought virtually no books for virtually all of this month, surprising even myself, of course. But part of it was I resisted. I still haven't bought anything on Book Outlet. I actually went one night and I looked and I started adding stuff to my car, and then I'm just like, no, I don't need it. And so I kept myself from doing that, and I have not been to Half Price Books this month at all either. So those are two places that tend to make up the vast majority of my book hauls. But I still have one, as I will talk about now, and I'll explain why. So the first thing is, I did specifically buy two new books that I went and looked for, based completely on recommendations. The first one is Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. This is the first book in the Raven Shadow series. I actually have the first book in the follow-up series, but both Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads and John from Walker Writes 7 had read and really, really enjoyed this, and so I really wanted to read this. I actually planned on reading this month, but I didn't end up getting to it, and so I'm going to try and put it in here pretty soon. But this one is supposed to be really good. It's following basically a soldier. I read the first chapter of this, a soldier who is going and I think fighting for freedom basically, and then ends up the opening part of it shows after he's done all of these things, and by the Empire in power is a captive and everything. So it sounds interesting. Like I said, both Andrew and John, who we don't always all agree on the same types of books, so when both of them really like a book, that's a book I need to read. So I'm really excited for this one. It'll also be my first Anthony Ryan book. Like I said, I have another later book in this, and I have another book in a series, but I've not read any yet. And they both really, really enjoyed it, so I'm very excited. The second one, which you may have already seen the review for this one, because I read it pretty much right away because it's so short, is The Star Is My Destination, aka Tiger by Alfred Bester. This was recommended by Fit to Be Read in a live stream I did. And it sounded really interesting, and the kind of the description, what sold me, is it's compared to the Count of Monte Cristo in space, basically. So it's a futuristic sci-fi, and it does have a revenge plot that definitely kind of is a hallmark back to Count of Monte Cristo. And I enjoyed this one. This was kind of a strange book with a really terrible, unredeemable character. And it was published in the 50s, yet really, and it was noted too, another thing, is supposed to have not really aged like most older sci-fi does. And I agree. All of the sci-fi parts of it were done really, really well and didn't feel aged. There were a few parts of the writing that felt a little bit aged, but really interesting. And like I said, this I recommend for people who like morally corrupt characters or just terrible characters, that kind of thing. I wouldn't have expected that from a book that's this old. And so really this was interesting, and you can check out my review if you want to hear more about that one. So that was the first thing. Those are the two books I specifically went out of my way to get. Based on recommendations, and then it was mentioned to me that Target was having buy two get one sale on books, and my wife actually told me, and I'm like, ugh. And then I went and I looked, and they had nothing, and then somebody in the Discord mentioned that their filters are really bad, and you just have to search for things, and then you'll find things. And I did. I gave in, and I bought some books. Granted, I got a really good deal, so still pretty good. But I got some books on Target, and that's mostly what this is. So the first thing I got is I finally got I've forgotten what this trilogy is called, Book of the Ancestor, by Mark Lawrence. So Red Sister, Gray Sister, Holy Sister. And I read his first two trilogies, and so I've been meaning to get to Book of the Ancestor. This is actually the first one I ever heard about. I know this was really popular on BookTube, but I figured I'd start at the beginning and read his other work, and I really liked Broken Empire, and I really liked Red Queen's War, so I'm excited to get to this one, because I know this was quite popular for the most part as well. So I decided to finally get it, because I didn't own these books, and I just got the paperbacks, because that's what most of my other ones were in. So those were the first ones I got. And then I got Swords Against Death and Swords and Deviltry by Fritz Lieber. This is some old school sword and sorcery thing following Farfod of Mouser. who are like a mercenary duo, I think. Really interested to try these. I kind of peeked and like thumbed through Swords and Deviltry. I had to think about it. So this is technically the first book, but apparently some people do recommend starting with the second book because it's better and gives you more of an idea of who it is. So that was specifically Liam's Lyceum recommended starting with this one. So I think that's what I will do. He's one of the only person I specifically know who's read these. And I did an Ask Indigo thing, Indigo the bookseller, and they recommended these. Also recommended starting with the first book, or the second book, I mean. And so I think I will do that because I'm interested. These also are super short, and so ones I've had on my wish list for a while, and just decided to grab them when we had this Target sale. So then next up, there were some people around the Discord that were reading the Dune books. I've only ever read just Dune, the first one. So they had actually really good deals. These were not only on the 2 for buy 2 get 1 sale, but they were a lot cheaper than the normal list price. And I like the trade. And like I have an old Dune that is a little bit bigger than a mass market. It's like the slightly taller mass market. But I was able to get these, which is the next two, pretty cheap. And so I've actually never read any of the other Dune books. So I don't really know a whole lot of what happens. But I'm interested to read them because I like Dune. And just thinking about Dune, I still need to watch the movie. But I'm interested to see what more there is. I don't think I would read the ones Frank Herbert didn't write. But I definitely would like to read at least the ones that he did. That's kind of one of those things I always meant to continue. I just never really did. And Dune really does stand up on its own. So I wasn't in like a huge rush to get it either. So then I got a couple of other things that I just had on my wish list for quite a while. And decided to get, and that is Never Die and Pawn's Gambit by Rob J. Hayes. So Andrew had told me that Never Die was really good. I don't think he's read Pawn's Gambit yet, but these are both also pretty short books and just ones I was interested in, an author I'm interested in trying, and so I think this will be pretty interesting. And so this one is somebody on a mission for the god of death. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. So he has to like find and kill some legendary heroes, so they can fight for the god of death, it says. So this is supposed to be really interesting. The covers are interesting, and like I said, usually if Andrew recommends something, I add it to the list. So they had been on the list a while, I just decided to grab them as well. So those are the books that I got from the old Amazon. Target, I forgot what we were talking about for a moment. And that is like I said, that's the bulk of what I bought. But I also made the mistake of going into a Barnes & Noble, which is not even something I normally do. But we were in the area, my wife was looking at another store, and I'm like, I could peek at Barnes & Noble. And so I did, and I found, which I'm pretty sure I'd seen this before, but I forgot was a thing. They had this beautiful hardcover illustrated edition of Ocean at the End of the Lane. I loved this book. It was fantastic. This is a really nice looking hardcover. I right now had just the normal paperback, less pretty. Still a decent. This is so nice. And I was looking at it because I saw it and I didn't even realize it was illustrated, but I just saw it. I'm like, why is this so thick? That doesn't make sense as a side for this really short story. And then I looked and there are some beautiful illustrations in here throughout, including like there's some of the pages are written really in an interesting way. Sometimes there's half page, half illustration. So this is something, and some of it is just normal too, for the record. It really depends. I think like the more mystical parts go more into illustrations, but I definitely think I'll probably reread this soon, even though I only read it for the first time this year, and read in this fantastic setting. So I was super excited to find this. It is just a really beautiful book. And since I was buying that looking at Gambit, I finally got the Graveyard book. This is the plain style. I have some others that are in this style, but it'll actually match a couple that I have. Most of the Neil Gaiman books I have bought at half-price books for the most part, and I just kind of get a mishmash of styles and sizes. So this will match some I already have, and I've heard good things about the Graveyard book. This actually has some illustrations in it as well. It's not like a full-on illustrated, but it has some illustrations as well, and I've heard that's an interesting version to read this, so I decided to grab that as well. Now, I do have a couple more things here, and you may have seen the thumbnail and noticed that, no, I'm still not talking about that yet. I do have to bring up, holding it upside down, this beauty, which this is the Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio. And this actually was sent to me by Mitch Bennett. He was getting rid of it, and I thought it just looked really beautiful. It's got, this is an older book. Like some of our illuminated pages. And this, I looked up a little bit. It's like different people telling stories, and it's supposed to be kind of interesting. Definitely not something normally that I would probably read, but I just, like I said, it looked beautiful. This immediately went on to my fancy bookshelf, and that was the big thing. So even if I don't read this, this is going to be displayed next to one of their fancy books. I'll sneak in a picture of the other fancy books here shortly. But I just figured that looked nice on the shelf. So I definitely will try to get to it at some point, but I was just interested enough as a set piece for it. Now, what you've probably been waiting for, this is the first time I've ever owned some of the Brandon Sanderson leather-bound books. Now, they finally announced they had some of these left, and so I told my wife and hinted heavily, hey, if you need a Christmas present for me, they finally got some of these available, because I've never been able to get myself to do the Kickstarter and spend that much money on them. So this is technically a Christmas present from my wife, who is terrible at ruining surprises, because she hates surprises for herself and she can never keep a secret. So they came and she told me about it, and then wanted to see me open them up. So I was gonna do an unboxing for this, the same day I found out I got them. I saw the Captured in Words had posted one, so I'm like, I would do an unboxing. The first thing I want to know, I have never in my life seen books packed better. They came in here. This was wrapped in plastic. The individual books were wrapped in plastic. It was very carefully packaged so that no damage would come to it. The slipcase is beautiful, has the art. It's very carefully. I have barely touched these since getting them because I'm so afraid of damaging them. But the books themselves, absolutely beautiful on all sides. The inside, too, which I did not realize included, it has a bunch of different art in it. And here's some more art. Let me know if you'd like to see a whole video of me looking at these. Like I said, since it had been done and by a much bigger creator, I figured most people would have already seen that, and so I didn't end up doing it. But then we have colored chapter icons. There's some more art throughout. Absolutely just beautiful, beautiful collector pieces. I am just so pleased with these. These are worth the money. I don't like spending that kind of money on anything really, because I'm bad about spending money. I don't like to spend large amounts. But these are absolutely beautiful. I definitely want to try to get the rest of them as they become available, but for now I'm going to put these back in the slipcase because I'm so afraid of damaging them. But oh my gosh, I am so glad to finally own these. These are just beautiful. I've always wanted them. I'd like to collect all of the leather mounts at some point once they kind of get put back into circulation. I might just have to make myself start doing the Kickstarters because I really want all of them. I've seen people review and show the different books, and they just all are so freaking beautiful. So much care. And with Stormlight, it's hard because you got to pay $100 each. But my gosh, these are just absolutely stunning books. So I am so pleased with these books. But that is the entirety of my book haul. So like I said, that's actually a pretty reasonable amount. There was a book that was sent to me, two books I bought at Barnes & Noble, the Target group, and that was really it, besides the Leather Bounds, which I didn't buy, my wife bought. So I haven't had a book haul that small in a long time. So we'll have to see. Usually when I'm really good for a while, I end up crashing and burning. I haven't fully done that yet, but we'll see if hopefully I'm going to try to not go crazy with November, December either. It's getting closer to the holidays because I'm going to be buying other people's stuff. So hopefully I won't be too bad. I have been trying to read more of the books that I have. And reading some of the ones that I've got more recently. So also working on just unhauling books that I start reading. I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing to make space for more, of course, because I'm going to buy more. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to buy more. But that's kind of where we're at for now. So that is my book haul. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like If you want to chat with me about books, anything, post your own book calls, check the link in the description for the Wizardly Duo Discord and come join us there. Always a blast. And of course, if you'd like to see more of my content, make sure to subscribe.